صلي على رسوله الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي واجعل لي وزيرا من أهلي ربي يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير وبك نستعين يا فتاح ربي زدني علما ربي هب لي حكما وألحقني بالصالحين ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا أتمم لنا نورنا واغفر لنا إنك على كل شيء قدير ربنا أتمم لنا نورنا واغفر لنا إنك على كل شيء قدير ربنا أتمم لنا نورنا واغفر لنا إنك على كل شيء قدير آمين يا أرحم الراحمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh once again. Alhamdulillah, by the grace and tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Today we are going to talk about ayah number 77 and 78 from Surah Al Imran. And we will listen to the recitation and go over the word by word meaning first. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim.
إن الذين يشترون بعهد الله وأيمانهم ثمنا قليلا أولئك لا خلاق لهم في الآخرة ولا يكلمهم الله ولا ينظر إليهم يوم القيامة ولا يزكيهم ولهم عذاب أليم.
إن الذين, indeed, definitely, certainly, الذين, those who, يشترون. So ishtara is to exchange something. Like in olden times, you would barter something. Like you would give something and get something in exchange. Like somebody's a farmer, they have a lot of grains and another person has cotton, and they would exchange the person with wheat would exchange some bit of wheat with the other person with a bit of the cotton. So in a transaction, commodity could be exchanged for a price as well as another commodity. And slowly this started to be used, this term, in the terms of giving preference to one thing over the other. Like, for example, when I go out to buy groceries, what I'm doing is I have a certain amount of money and then I'm giving preference to food over money. So I'm giving up that money in exchange of the groceries. So it comes in the meaning of buying and selling in that sense, and giving preference to something and exchanging something with something else in that sense. So those who yashtaruna, they exchange bi'ahdillahi, the covenant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the promise, the contract that they made with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wa aymanihim, and their oaths. Ayman, the oaths that they make. So they exchange both of these with what? Thamanan qalila. Thamanan is a price, and qalilan is a very little price, right? So thamanan qalila, they exchanged two big things. They exchanged the covenant that they made with Allah, and they exchanged their own oaths for a small price, a little bit of price. Ulaika, these, meaning these people, la khalaqa, they have no share, khalaqa, no share, lahum, for them, fil akhirati, in the akhirah. So here, like 5 things are being mentioned, like the people who do this thing, that they exchange the covenant and oaths of Allah for a small price, they have 5 punishments, basically, and those 5 punishments are detailed in this. First one is la khalaqa lahum fil akhirati. There is no share for them in the hereafter. Wala yukallimuhumullah, and not wa, and la, not yukallimuhum, will not speak to them. Kalam is to speak to somebody. Yukallimuhum, will not speak to them. And who will not speak to them? Allahu. Allah will not speak to them. May Allah not make us of those people. Wala yanduru ilayhim, and he will not look at them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not look at them yawm al-qiyamah, on the day of resurrection. Yanduru also, nadara also comes in the meaning of giving time to somebody. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not look at them, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not give any time to them on the day of judgment. Wala yuzakkihim, and zaki is for purification. Like zakat is also from the same origin. So when we are giving zakat, what do? We are purifying our wealth by giving the zakat, the obligatory zakat that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mandated upon us. We purify our wealth. So zakihim is to purify, and purification is in the means of like Allah will not purify them, and even purify in terms of spiritually and also in terms of like physically, and um, in that sense, before going to Jannah, we know we'll all be purified. Like inshallah, may Allah make us of those people who enter Jannah and whom Allah purifies. But these people, one of their punishment is wala yuzakkihim. Allah will not purify him. Walahum adabun alim, and for them is a painful punishment. Like adab comes many times in the Quran, like what, and then that they will, adab is a punishment. But what kind of a punishment? There are different kinds. Sometimes we will see a adabun azim, like a big punishment. Sometimes we'll say adabun alim, like a painful punishment. So and there's a principle in Arabic called that the punishment is befitting the crime that was done. So there is a reason why somebody would get a painful punishment, and there is a reason somebody will get a big punishment, right? So, and we will talk about it in a little bit, inshallah. So in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, indeed, those who exchange the covenant of Allah and their own oaths for a small price, they will have no share in the hereafter. Allah will not speak to them or look at them on the day of resurrection, nor will He purify them, and they will have a painful punishment. May Allah not make us of those people. And ayah number 78. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
وَإِنَّ مِنْهُمْ لَفَرِيقًا يَلْوُونَ أَلْسِنَتَهُم بِالْكِتَابِ لِتَحْسَبُوهُ مِنَ الْكِتَابِ وَمَا هُوَ مِنَ الْكِتَابِ وَيَقُولُونَ هُوَ مِنْ عِندِ اللَّهِ وَمَا هُوَ مِنْ عِندِ اللَّهِ ويقولون على الله الكذب وهم يعلمون.
وَإِنَّ, and indeed, minhum, amongst them, meaning amongst those people, لَفَرِيقًا is a group. Fariq, lam here is the lam of emphasis, right? So la fariqan, there is surely a group. Fariq is a group. Like farak is to differentiate between, like to separate, and fariq is like a group of people which is separate from the rest of the group. So a group of people. Wa inna minhum la fariqan, and indeed among them surely there's a group. So there's an emphasis with inna, and there's also another emphasis with lam. So it's like a double emphasis, meaning making the statement really, really strong. And indeed among them surely there is a group, yalwuna, they distort, they change or they twist. Al-sinatahum, al-sinatahum from lisan. Lisan is the tongue, and al-sinatahum, their tongues, like the plural. So they distort their tongues. Bil kitabi, in what do they distort their tongues in? In reciting the book. Litahsabuhu, so that you may think. Hasaba, to think, or to feel some things like something, right? So litahsabuhu, so that you may think that what they're saying is minal kitab, is from the book. Wama huwa minal kitab, and wama, and not, huwa, it, mina, from, al kitab, the book, and it is not from the book. So basically they recite the book, and while reciting the book, they're twisting their tongues in a way that it sounds a bit like something else. Like you would think it is something else, and they do it on purpose. And you will think it is from the book while it is not from the book. وَيَقُولُونَ, and they say, huwa min indillah, that this, whatever you're understanding, whatever they trying to make you think it is, or what they're distorting their tongues as, they will say that this is from Allah. وَمَا هُوَ مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ, while it is not from Allah. That so وَيَقُولُونَ, and they say عَلَى اللَّهِ, about or upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, al-kadhib. Al-kadhib, kaf, dal, and ba, for a lie. They say about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a lie. Like it's one thing to say a lie about somebody, but they're lying about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're ascribing something to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah said this when He did not say that. So they are saying a lie about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wahum ya'lamun, while they know it. So they're doing it knowingly. It's not that it's a mistake that's happening. They know about it. And ayn, lam, and mim is to know about, from ilm, to know. وَهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ, and while they know about it. So here in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, and indeed there is among them a party who alter the scripture with their tongues. So you may think it is from the scripture, but it is not from the scripture. And they say this is from Allah, but it is not from Allah. And they speak a lie about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala while they know what they're doing, meaning they're doing it on purpose. So inshallah, we will go over in a little bit more detail about these two ayat. So the first ayah, ayah number 77. Surely those who take a small price by breaking the covenant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and their oaths, for them there is no share in the hereafter, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will neither speak to them, nor will he look towards them on the day of judgment, nor will he purify them. For them there is a painful punishment. So a small price means that to prefer something which is mean and temporary, like some mean and temporary interest of this world, and you preferred that over the everlasting benefit of the hereafter. So no matter how much somebody might get of this world, let's say somebody breaks an oath or something, or somebody lies about something, they made a promise to somebody, but they break a promise, and for that they get, let's say, $1 million or $10 million or even $100 million or even a whole island to themselves or something. Even that compared to the hereafter, even if somebody gets the whole earth and everything in it, even that, and nobody could get that for breaking an oath or something like that, nobody would get that much of a benefit. But even if somebody were to get that much of a benefit, that still is a small price compared to the hereafter, right? Compared to the benefits of the hereafter. And what is the covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Biyahdillah, right? So this is referring to the covenant or the contract that somebody makes with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what was the covenant that people before us, the people of Bani Israel, they had, and other people who came before us, who were in other ummah before us, what was the pledge that they made? One pledge that all humanity made with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was to worship him alone, and the pledge to obey him, right? But and to obey the books that and the people who came before us, they had the covenant with their own prophets as well, that they will follow their own book, they'll follow their own sharia, and that when the final prophet comes, they will follow the final. If the every prophet gave this covenant that if the final prophet comes in their time period, like nobody knew how many prophets are going to come after them. Nobody knew when the final prophet is going to come. Nobody knows when the day of judgment is going to come. There are some things only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. But he told us there are some signs, and every prophet, no matter what time he came, he made this covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that if the final prophet comes in my time while I am on this earth and I am a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I will start following, I and my followers will start following the final prophet. Right? And the people before us, so by extension, their followers made this covenant as well. And they were aware of it through their books and through the other things they had and everything. They were aware of this, that they will follow this. But what people before us, and especially in this context, when we're talking about the Bani Israel, particularly the Jews and the Christians of that time, what they did was they didn't just forget about this covenant. They didn't just like put it aside and forget about it, but rather they tried their best. They actually put in efforts. They tried their best to erase all traces of this covenant that they will follow the final prophet. What will be the signs of the final prophet? What will he look like? And what would tell you that he is the person and everything. They did their best to erase all these traces from their scriptures. And how do we know this? Some of the one of the things, like there are many things, but one of the things that we know about is from the story of Salman al-Farsi. Salman al-Farsi radiallahu anhu, he was a fire worshipper, and then but he thought this is not right, right? So he saw some people, he saw some Christians, he came across some Christians, and he felt this is a better religion than mine. This is, I'm worshiping a fire, they're worshiping God and everything. So he started, he converted basically to Christianity. He was with the monk, and he would stay with that person, and he learned from him until there came a time that this person was very, very old, and he was about to die, and he said, okay, when I die, you go to this person. He gave him like, okay, because there were very few people left who were on the right Akida of Isa alayhi salam at that time. So he said, okay, go to this person. And Salman al-Farsi went to that person, found that person, went to that person. And then he served him for a while, learned from him, learned a lot of things from him. And then when he was about to die as well, then he went to another person, which he told, okay, go to such and such a place and go to this person. And that happened. And the final person that when he was about to die, he said, okay, I don't know of any other person who's on the right Aqidah at this point, but there is a final prophet who's going to come, and I would recommend you to go to such and such a place where he gave some sign. There'll be like date palms, trees, and this and that would be there at this such a place, and you go there and everything, and you'll find it is around time that the final prophet should come soon. So you go there, and amongst the signs that he told Salman al-Farsi of recognizing this final prophet was that this prophet who would come would be, if you give him sadaqah, then he would not eat from it. He would not eat from, he would take it and give it to other people. Like he would if you give him something and say this is from sadaqah, then he would give it to other people and he would distribute it to the poor and the people in need and everything, but he would not himself eat from it, right? Because he's a prophet and this is one of his signs. But if you give him a hadiah, if you give him a gift, then he will eat from it. Then he will accept it and eat from it. And that there will be a seal of prophethood on his back. Like there was a little, like a mole kind of a thing on the back of the Prophet ﷺ, and a few hair um, were coming out of it, which were of different colors, right? So that was one of the signs. And Salman al-Farisi recognized the Prophet ﷺ from these signs. And there were other things as well, of course, that other people knew. Like these people of the book knew that, but they did their best to erase. They worked hard to erase them and to hide them and remove all the traces of these from their scriptures. So they broke these for a small price, right? And the oaths, what does the when we say wa aymanihim from ayman, ayman here refers to the oaths that a person takes. So oaths that we make while we make promises and pledges with each other. Like our social and cultural life depends on, is based on these oaths and these pledges and these promises that we make each other. Like whether it's work, when somebody, let's say somebody is a doctor and a person comes there, then we have this oath that we're going to take care of you and you can be safe with us, and we are going to do our best. Yes, what is not in our hands and not in our hands, but we will do our best to take care of you. When we go to a shop and we see we buy some food product and it says halal symbol on it, then we expect it to be halal. That's a promise that is being made to us. We are not involved in the production procedure of each product while it is being made. But when there is a label there, and when we see that, and when we read the ingredients, and like, okay, alhamdulillah, this is halal, and we take it, we trust that there is a lot of trust that we have, and there is no way to function without that in our social life, in our cultural life, in our economic life, the things that we do day to day. There's a lot of trust that we have to have on each other, and a lot of promises and pledges that we make to each other. Like a marriage is a pledge that we make to each other, that we will take care of each other, we'll be your life partners with each other. And so it's a contract, right? We make business contracts. When we work somewhere, when we have a job opportunity, there is a contract that is made. There's a promise that we make between the employer and the employee. When we have, let's say, a cleaner at our house, then we have a certain contract that, okay, you work for me, you clean my house, and I'll give you this amount of money when you finish. Or when we go to get our clothes stitched from somebody, then we have this contract, okay, you stitch my clothes and I'll give you this much money. So it's a promise that I made. And even let's say somebody stitched the clothes and I don't give them the money, and I say, no, I'm not taking it now, but I made a promise before. So I wasted that person's time, and I wasted that person's energy and everything. So it's like a lot of promises and pledges that we make throughout our day. So what is being told here is that there are such people. There are people who, what they do is they exchange, they break their covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they break their oaths that they make with people. And for certain temporary benefits of this world, like there's something, the to keep our pledges and to keep our oaths is a really big deal in Islam, right? And why is it such a big deal? Why is it such a big deal to have these oaths and contracts, and to complete even with people, not just with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but also with people when we have these? Because like we said, our social and cultural life is based on them. And when if we are in a society or in a community or organization where people take care of their trust, where like people take their oaths and they take them seriously. They take their word seriously. Like in olden times, they used to say that like a person's word was everything, like was his honor. Like if I have given my word, even if you wouldn't write it down, a person would do literally a lot just to honor his own word. He would bend over backwards because I gave a word. Now I can't go back on my word. So it was a matter of honor for men to stick to their word. And when this happens in a society, then it encourages trust and confidence and goodwill in the social life and mutual dealings. And life is generally more peaceful then. And like everybody has like good expectations from each other and everything, as opposed to this when people are generally when people around us are not honoring their trust, when people are cheating each other, when even if we are not directly the recipients, even if we hear of other people doing this to other people, it impacts us because it makes us feel uneasy. It makes us feel unhappy because why is somebody doing this to somebody else? And obviously, when we are ourselves involved, then it is much more painful as well. But then even if we see other people, then it kind of breaks down our trust in humanity and generally and everything. So this is a big deal in our life, and it is also a very big deal in Islam. And when our covenant is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when our contract is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a contract is a two-way thing. Like when we made this contract with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah ta'ala also promised us something that, okay, if we obey him, we worship him alone, and we follow his prophets, that all the prophets that come and we follow him, then he gives us certain promises in return too, that you will eat from, like you will not be in want, you will eat from the earth and the skies, like there'll be rains, there'll be everything, there'll be a lot of barakah in around you and everything. And in the hereafter, inshallah, you'll get Jannah. And throughout the Quran, Allah Ta'ala promises us and tells us different things about Jannah that we will be getting. Obviously, the final and the ultimate pleasure would be the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He is pleased with us. But when there is a contract with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our deen, it becomes our aqidah. Whatever we have the contract with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever our dealing is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever we've promised Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is our aqidah, that becomes our aqidah, that is our faith, that becomes our faith, that becomes a matter of our iman to follow it. And whatever dealings we have with people, they are called muamalat, right? And they are our oaths, and there are things that we do with people. And to break them, either of them, to break both of them, right? There is hukukullah and there is hukukul ibad. There are rights upon every one of us. There are rights upon me that are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and there are rights upon me that are due to people around me, right? By the virtue of them being my parents, my spouse, my children, my neighbors, my siblings, different people around me, they have rights upon me. People of my ummah, different people have different rights upon me, and the people that I make promises to, they have certain rights about on me as well. And likewise for every other person, each one of us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a right upon us, and the people around us have a right upon us as well. Right? And so to break these oaths, to break our covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or to break our oaths with people, that is one of the major sins in Islam. And it is reiterated in a lot of hadith as well, that it is amongst one of the major sins. To not fulfill our commitment is a big deal in Islam. It is a really big deal. And why do people usually do it? People usually break their oaths for one reason, is when some benefit comes in front of them. Like for example, somebody engaged their daughter to be married to somebody else. They made a commitment, like okay, we are engaged, and on this date they're going to get married, and this and that. And then before the marriage, another rishta came, right? And another proposal came, and this new proposal seems so much more like glamorous. The people are more well off, and this and that. I'm like, oh, yes, a person could feel that, oh, I could have waited some more time, and this person looks better and everything. But then I have already made a commitment, and then to kind of like okay, to disregard the commitment, the nikah has not yet happened. Okay, I'll just get them engaged, get her engaged to this one and everything, and I'll just break that promise without any reason or without anything. So that's something, that's one of the example that another benefit came in front of me. Or let's say somebody accepted a job offer. So we accepted, we signed, we did everything, and now we've accepted it. We are supposed to start from this date. And now just because I got a better offer without informing them, without going through the whatever the protocol is and everything, I just dumped them because I could dump them. So I just dumped and accepted the new offer. That's, yes, in the worldly terms, I might not be doing anything wrong, but in the terms of our deen, it is something wrong because I made a commitment to somebody, right? And let's say, and at workplace, somebody makes a commitment to somebody, okay, you do this work and you'll get this percent. There are two business partners, you will get this percent of the share of the income or whatever else happens and everything. And towards the end of it, they're like, okay, it is a big chunk of money. If I don't give this person the money that is due to them, what are the consequences? So if somebody weighs in their mind, okay, let's say this person is owed, let's say $100,000, but then if they go through the court proceedings, it will cost them $200,000 just to be able to get them back. So they're not going to go through all of this. So you know what? And they don't have any other way to getting this money out of me. So you know what? I'm not going to give this money. I'm going to keep it with me, and I'm going to make excuses. Why am I not giving this money? I'll give it at a later date. I'll keep putting excuses or something, or I'll say no. I'll give you later. I'll give you later. I'll give you later, and I don't give it until the time the person gets frustrated and says, you know what, just leave it. It's not worth the headache or something. Or I say, what, like I'm not going to give it to you. Do whatever you can because I know the person cannot do anything, so I can take advantage of that, right? So these kind of things is breaking an oath, breaking a commitment that you made to a certain person. A certain person was owed something, and you made a commitment, right? And even if you look at our daily life commitments, like let's say I make a commitment to somebody, okay, I'll come and visit you in such and such time, and I don't go at all. It's one thing that, okay, I got late in the traffic and everything, but another thing is I never had an intention to go. I just wanted to keep that person hanging. Yeah, 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 yeah. I'll come tomorrow. I'm on the way. I'm the way. I'm not even on the way. I'm like somewhere else, but I just keep lying to this person. This and like or I'll make a commitment, even like our scholars say, even like little commitments that we make to our children, for example, like like we will do this tomorrow. If you finish your homework, I'll take you out tomorrow and we will go out for an ice cream tomorrow or something. If you make a commitment, then take them out for ice cream tomorrow. Be very don't make commitments, don't take your commitments lightly, and when you make a commitment, fulfill them, right? And if we look at the Sirah, then Fatah Makkah, like why did the whole, if you look at the incidents that happened before Fatah Makkah, there was a Treaty of Hudaybiyah that was done between the Muslims and the people of Makkah. And when they broke that treaty, when they went against the people of Makkah, when they went against that treaty, when they uh, when they broke the treaty, that's when the Prophet ﷺ was ready to attack them because it's a big deal, right? In Islam, it's a very big deal to break an oath. And awada versus an ahad, right? So what's awada versus an ahad is awada is a one-sided promise, right? Like for example, somebody says like we go to buy something to a shop and the person says, you know what, and especially it's very common back home in things like that, like let's say you go and you're buying a piece of fabric and you're like, okay, this is worth this much money, and you're bargaining with, you're saying to the person, no, 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 we'll pay this much, and the person saying, you know what, I didn't even buy it for this much, like, and they know they bought it for much less, but just I promise, this is not even my buying price is much more than this. I cannot give it to you for this much. So even such small things like this that people are used to, they're lying while they're doing that, right? Which is not allowed in Islam. It's like making a lie, and like lying about something and making a false promise about something. Ahad is like something that is agreed upon by both parties after a mutual discussion, like all the signs and contracts and everything. And like we said, the people of the book had an ahad with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that they would follow the final prophet. That was something that they had, and they would do, that they were supposed to do when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came. And there's a narration from Musnad Ahmad that Abu Dhar radiallahu anhu, he said to the people that, listen, people, um, I cannot ascribe a lie to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I've heard the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam say this, right? Like, um, And when I've heard something from the Prophet ﷺ, then I'm not the one who's going to lie about it. And people said, okay, tell us what it is. What is it is that you heard from him? So we want to know. And he said to the effect that the Prophet ﷺ told us to the effect that there are three kinds of people that Allah keeps as friends. And there are three kinds of people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps as enemies. Right? So the three people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes as friends are, one person is that when there is a fight, when there is a jihad on the battlefield against the enemies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then this person is stands up with bravery and everything, and goes and faces that, and stands up for this. So either they show their like either they present themselves in the battlefield, or they win and come back. Like they don't run away from the battlefield. They don't run away from it. They're brave and they face things for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the battlefield, when there is a legitimate fight against the enemies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another person that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes as friend is that there is, let's say there is a group of people who are traveling together. There's a kafila, there's a group who's traveling together, and they're on a journey, and they keep on walking, they keep on traveling until late night, and then everybody's really tired, and like they're like they stopped for the day, they put their tents up and everything, and then everybody was so tired that everybody else like went to sleep and everything, but there is this one person who stayed awake, and he started praying salah, and he was so busy in salah, he kept being busy in salah so much until the time came to start on the journey again, and he woke up everyone. So throughout the time, although everybody was tired, including him, he was tired as well, but he kept praying until the time was to go again, and then he woke everybody up to wake up and go, and start on the journey again. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes this person as a friend. Another person that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes as a friend is that person whose habit it is whose habit, that what he does is, when somebody hurts this person, when somebody hurts him or her, what he or she what they do is they do sabr on it. When they are hurt by somebody, they do sabr on it until either a journey or death comes to separate them from this person, right? So basically what they do is they don't take revenge for the things that were inflicted on them. They could have taken a revenge, but they don't take revenge against those people. So it's their habit. They don't go out and take revenge every time anybody hurts them or something, but rather they do sabr on it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes such a person as a friend, because they don't take revenge until there is a separation between this person because of journey, like either one of them goes on a journey and there is a separation between them, so there's no need to do sabr anymore, like there is a distance between them, or death comes to one of them, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take such a person as a friend because of the sabr that they did. And the three kinds of people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes as enemies are, first is the businessman who has a lot of, who swears a lot, who takes a lot of oaths, who says, you know what, like I promise this is this, I promise this is this, I promise, who keeps who makes a lot of oaths. That kind of a businessman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not like that. Another person that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes as an enemy is a faqir who is proud. Like a fakir, a person who has nothing, a person who is, like, because what happens is when we don't have something, when we are in a need, that's the time we are the most humble. That's the time when sometimes by putting us in need of some sort, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspires us to be humble and turn to Him again, because we are in so much need. Rabbi inni lima anzalta ilayya min khairin faqir. Right? When Musa alayhi salam was in desperate need, he ran away from Egypt. He had no extra clothes, he had no home, no shelter, no family, no friends, no food, no job, nothing. He was in a new land, nobody know, not his own community, not his own people. He didn't know his way around, he didn't know where to go, he was lost, in terms of physically lost, in terms of he didn't know where, in what part of the world he is, right? So he's lost. So there's so much, he was in need. And what did he say? Rabbi inni lima anzalta ilayya min khairin faqir. And Allah Ta'ala loved that dua so much that he taught it to us in the Quran to make that dua. And so when we are in need, we are humbled and everything. But somebody who is in need, somebody who's faqir, and yet they are proud, yet they have takabbur, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes that person as an enemy, somebody who's really proud. While that another person that Allah, the third kind of person that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes as an enemy is the person who is very stingy. And if by chance they do benefit somebody, they do some favor on somebody, once in a while it happens from them that they ended up benefiting somebody, then they go and they try to like show it off, like they try to show it to that person or make it obvious to that person or rub it in that, I did this for you, I did this for you, that time you were in this need and I did that for you. So that person who doesn't do much for anybody, and when something happens from them, then they go on and they go and rub it in and make the person feel, the person who got the favor, to feel a bit bad about it and feel like like a big favor was done on them and that kind of a thing. And from another hadith we learn that um, if anybody has, the Prophet said to the effect that whoever takes a piece of land from others unjustly, let's say there are two people and there's one person who did not own this land 100%, or maybe that person did not own that land at all, or owned 50%, and they snatched from the other person their land or their property or their business or whatever. So whoever takes a piece of land of another person unjustly, he will sink down the seven earths on the day of resurrection of that piece of land. Another narration, it says that on the day of judgment, that piece of land and the seven earths beneath it will all be put together and put in his neck, on his neck, that person's neck, because that piece of land and all the seven earths below that piece of land, they will all be put in his neck. Because and on that day, we don't want to travel heavy. We want to travel light. Like it's a big day, it's a long day, and we have to give account for everything. And something that obvious, how will we give account to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when if we show up with anything like that? May Allah ta'ala protect us. A'udhu billah. And so in this world too, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not give us a free reign that we can do whatever we like in the matter of people, right? So uh, like and another hadith, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that there are some people on the day of judgment, there are some people of Allah subhanahu, there's some servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who are such that on the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will neither talk to them nor will he look at them. A'udhu billah, a'udhu billah. May Allah Ta'ala not make us of them. So the Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was asked, Ya Rasulullah, who are these people? Who are these unfortunate people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not even talk to them and he'll not even look at them? And he said, the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam replied to the effect that among these people are is a girl who is not like who's bizarre from her parents, like and not careful about them. She doesn't care about them. She's not conscious about their rights. She doesn't take care of them and things like that. So that kind of a girl, and a father who is not conscious of or does not take care of his child, right? So two kind of people, that one is a girl who does not take care. Because why girls especially? Because girls usually have more they're more emotional by nature, and they generally, it is said that the girls would care for you a bit more than a just by nature. They are more caring and they're more emotional. They would see their mother or their father in a bit of a pain, then they would feel it a bit more. They would rush for that more. They would sit and talk and they would be like, okay, I can do something for you and everything. Sons would care too, but they have a very different way of showing their love and everything. For a girls, they're much more, they feel a bit much more, and they by nature they are like that. So for a girl to leave that, to not be conscious of her parents at all, and to ignore them, and to be like bizarre, to be like, I don't care and this is too much, and so that is a cause of getting the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And from a father, because it's a father's responsibility to take, and fathers generally feel accomplished, men feel accomplished by taking care of their children. and that is their responsibility to take care of their children. So when a father is not conscious of their own children and ignores their children and does not take care of their children or his responsibilities towards his children, then that angers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. And another people is when there's a group of people, when there's a qawm on whom certain favors were done, and they refute them and turn away and like just ignore them, then those people also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is angry with them, and he will not talk to them, or he will not look at them on the day of judgment. And another narration, it says that whoever swore an oath falsely in order to acquire by this oath a property of a Muslim, that person will meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and face his anger. A'udhu billah, may Allah ta'ala not make us of those people. Regarding this ayah, there's also an incident which is shared, which is one of the Sahabi, Al-Ash'at bin Qais. He and a Jew, at that time, at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they had a dispute about a land. So there was a piece of land between them, and basically the Jew denied Al-Ash'at the land, and he took the complaint to the Prophet ﷺ. So the Prophet ﷺ had both of them in his court and everything, and the Prophet ﷺ asked the Sahabi Al-Ash'at, do you have a proof that this land is yours? And he said, no, Ya Rasulullah, I don't have a proof. And then the Prophet ﷺ said to the Jew, do you swear, meaning do you swear that this is your land and everything? And Al-Ashad said, Ya Rasulullah, if you're asking him to swear and then get away, then he will swear, he will take an oath and take my property. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this verse, that whoever, indeed, surely those who take a small price by breaking the covenant of Allah and their oaths, for them there is no share in the hereafter. Allah will neither speak to them nor look at them on the day of judgment, and he will not purify them, and for them there is a painful punishment. Right? And Ikrimah said in another narration that this was revealed regarding Abu Rafi Lubayba ibn Abi al-Haqiq and Huway ibn Akhtab and others from the leaders of the Jews, the leaders from the leaders of Bani Israel, who concealed what Allah had informed them regarding Muhammad in the Torah, and they changed it, and they wrote things with their own hands, and then they swore that this is from Allah, and that they might and the reason why they were doing it was because they did not want to lose the bribes that they used to get. That there was a lot of religious corruption, and for being the heads of the religious authority in their community, people would bribe them a lot, people would give them gifts of food and things like that, and they would receive all these expensive gifts from their followers and food and bribes and things, and they did not want to lose all of that. And for the sake of keeping those things, they changed things in the divine book that they had. Right? And so what in doing this, what were they doing is that the Bani Israel of that time, the group of Bani Israel of that time, what they had done was they failed to live up to the noble teachings of their own prophets, and they had devised excuses and legal tricks literally to justify their dishonest dealings and mistreatment of other people. And they had also created these things that they believed they had no obligation to the non-Jews. We talked about this earlier, that they believed that they didn't owe anything to the non-Jews, as long as so they were not accountable for any treaties or contracts that they made with them. So they made up all these things. And so and what were, if you look at Bani Israel, that we learned about them in Surah Baqarah at length and everything, who were these people? So these were the people, first of all, they were specially honored by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by speaking directly to them via their prophet. Like Musa alayhi salam is Kalimullah. Through Musa alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addressed these people directly. They got like Musa alayhi salam would talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and tell them things directly, right? So that was a special honor giving to them. And then another thing was they were being oppressed and humiliated by the Pharaoh. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was kind to them and rescued them from that oppression. We learned about that oppression of the Pharaoh. He used to kill their sons. Every alternate year, he would kill thousands of babies. Whatever babies was born that year, he would kill them every alternate year. And one year that he spared them was also for the reason that we need workforce. We need slaves to do our construction work, our this and that. So we release some of their men. We won't kill all of their men, but they would kill most of their boys. And the girls, what he would do is he would keep the girls alive. And we all know how girls are oppressed. Like it's no surprise even today when we see any group of people take over another, the kind of atrocities that are committed over the girl childs of that community are, may Allah Ta'ala forgive people who do these things and guide them to the right thing, and may Allah Ta'ala help the girls and the women who are stuck in unsafe situations all over the world and unsafe circumstances all around the world. And another thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did for these people was He installed them as leaders and guides for others. Right? A special scripture was revealed to them to purify them, to teach them, to guide them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raised many, many, many prophets and messengers from among them. Literally, like when one prophet used to die, another prophet would take its place. Then that prophet used to die, another would take its place. So there were prophets after prophets. They would always have prophets, sometimes multiple prophets at the same time. They would have many prophets at the same time, and sometimes, but anyway, there would be prophet after prophet after prophet, right? But they failed to appreciate the honor that they were given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they turned their backs on Allah's book. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them so much honor, gave them so much thing, gave them the scripture, gave them so much of blessings. And what did they do in return? That they did not appreciate the honor that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them, and they turned their backs on it. And they started changing it. They didn't just ignore it, but they started making efforts to change things just to get a few benefits from the dunya. Right? So how could they then expect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to look at them or to cleanse them or to purify them? They literally, if we think about it, they've literally closed the doors of hope for themselves. They barred themselves from these doors of hope for themselves all the time. And um, if we look at tazkiyah, right? What is tazkiyah? Tazkiyah basically is to purify ourselves. And for us, when can we strive for it? The time for us to strive for tazkiyah is in this world, now in this world. If we let this opportunity slip, it will be too late. In the afterlife, it's not in our hands anymore. Right now, we can make an effort towards it, and every person can make an effort towards it, right? And but then it will be too late. In akhirah, it will be too late. Now that like the examination's over, it's only during the examination that even if we have done mistakes, we can erase them. We can change how we were before, and we can change our things. We can rewrite our answers. We can make changes. We can do tawbah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We can turn back. Even if we have done so many sins as from the earth to the top of the sea, if we do genuine tawbah, genuine tawbah is extreme guilt and the feeling of remorse in our hearts, and the genuine intention that, yeah, first to stop doing what I'm doing, to have this extreme remorse and guilt that, yeah Allah, why did I shouldn't have done this, ya Rab. Ya Rab, I'm sorry for having done this. And the intention to never do it again. Yes, it might happen again. Like, for example, I might say that, okay, let's say while I was a bit tired and this and that, and like I have young children and I came back from work and my child wanted something, and I just like ended up being a bit loud to my child and everything, and the child went away and everything, and then I really realized after that, you know what, I shouldn't have been that harsh to my child. It was not his or her mistake that I'm tired from the day and I don't have time and everything, and I should apologize. I shouldn't do this in it. And I make this commitment. I ask Allah for forgiveness. I go to my child and try to make it up and everything. I say like, I'm sorry, like mommy is tired or this and that, and do that, and I make a commitment. I will not do it again. But then 2 3 days later, let's say it happens again, even though I made a genuine commitment, then alhamdulillah, I can turn back. As long as my intention is genuine, I can do a tawbah again and come back again, right? But the time to do tawbah is in this world, right? Another thing also is that there are some sins that we do, and that for that, what will happen is in the afterlife, we'll get some punishment for them. But then after that, we'll be purified and we'll go to Jannah, inshallah ta'ala. That may Allah ta'ala make us of those people who go to Jannah straight, who don't even have to look at Jahannam, who don't have to smell Jahannam, who don't have to see Jahannam, that we just go without hisab, inshallah ta'ala. May Allah ta'ala make us of them. I mean, but there are some sins that are so serious that those people who are committing those sins, they will remain in hell forever. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not purify them at all. And this sin is one of those kind of sins, that to break the covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a small price, to break your oath with people, to cheat people, and to say to people something and then do something else, right? And the punishment is so huge that there are 5 punishments that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us in this. The first one, there is no share for them in the hereafter, no kauthar, no jannat, no meeting the prophets, no meeting the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like, so there is no share at all, no kawthar, no good, no palaces, no good spouses, no good children, no peace, no happiness, no tranquility, nothing is there, right? And then even bigger punishment than that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not talk to them, right? So a believer lives this life waiting for the time. They say that this life is a prison for a believer, meaning the believer waits for the time when I will go to my Lord. I will go back to my Lord and I will speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I will talk about this to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I'll talk about that. But I will be in the company of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A true believer waits for this time. And that's why this life is a prison for a believer, because they wait for this time. Everything in their life is geared towards that Ya Allah, I hope you are pleased with this. Ya Allah, I'm doing this. I'm giving this charity. I hope you're pleased with this. I'm being nice to my family. I hope you're pleased with this. I try to serve my community. I hope you're pleased with this. I'm available for this. I'm trying to learn your deen, your book. I'm trying to follow your commands so that you're pleased with me. And I'll meet you one day, that you look at me, you talk to me. Right? Allah Ta'ala will not even talk to them, meaning, and kalam here means talk with love and affection to somebody. And then Allah, and forget talking, Allah subhanahu, the third thing is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not even look at them. Meaning here, not even look at them with rahmah. He will not even look at them with rahmah at that time. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not purify them. So one of the points here on the side is that only that person is pure whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala purifies. We cannot give a certificate of purity to ourselves or to anybody else in this world who's present, who's living at our time, right? We know about from the Prophet ﷺ, whoever he told us about, that, okay, this person and that person, whatever we know about him is fine. But whatever we don't know about, we cannot ascribe, what, this person, we can say that I learned from this person's very knowledgeable and everything. But purity is something that only Allah can purify somebody. So we cannot give this certificate to ourselves or to anybody else that we don't know of through the wahi or through the Quran or the Sunnah and everything. Like, another thing is that they will have a painful punishment. So in the afterlife, they're going to have nothing except a painful punishment. May Allah Ta'ala protect us from such a fate. The Prophet ﷺ told us that whenever we come in the Quran, and this was a habit of the Prophet ﷺ, whenever he would be reciting the Quran and everything, when he would come to the ayat which were talking about Jannah, then he would make dua, Ya Allah, make me of the person of Jannah. And when he would come to the ayat about Jahannam, he would make dua to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala to protect himself from Jahannam. And we also know that, just as a side note, we also know that any person who prays for Jannah 3 times in a day, then Jannah itself prays for that person. Ya Allah, admit this person to me, right? And when anybody prays to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala that Ya Allah, protect me from Jahannam 3 times in a day, then Jahannam itself makes dua to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, Ya Allah, protect this person from me. Right, so may Allah Ta'ala may Allah Ta'ala grant us Jannah and protect us from hellfire. May Allah Ta'ala grant all of us Jannah and protect us from hellfire. May Allah Ta'ala grant all of us Jannatul Firdaus, and may Allah Ta'ala protect all of us from any kind of punishment, from having any kind of adab, from having the minutest kind of adab, and to even look at it, to see it, to hear it, to smell it, to have any fear of any kind. May Allah Ta'ala make us of those people who he enters to Jannah bighairi hisab, without any hisab. And may Allah Ta'ala give us a good ending as well. And in the next ayah, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala tells us that amongst these people, meaning amongst the people of the group of Bani Israel at that time, so this was a mischief, another mischief, that the various mischief that we are learning about them, this was also one of their mischief of the Jews as well as the Christians. Scholarship, people of their scholars, some group of people of their scholars. And what they used to do was they used to conceal the truth by reading the divine book in such a way that the meaning gets changed totally. So while uttering some words of the divine book, they would contort their tongues. They would like move their tongues in such a way that the words are distorted, and changing those words would change the meaning completely. So whatever is meant by it, it would literally change the meaning, right? So again, for that time period, it was another way of trying to remove people from Islam, to move people away from Islam, to especially target those people who are either weak in the faith or who are new Muslims or everything, to move them away from the faith. And that happened before, that will happen today as well. When anybody comes to Islam, and if they don't have too much knowledge, if they don't have, until they become really strong in their foundation, there will be forces around them that will try to pull them away, because they would look at them as the loose link, that okay, I can, that shaitan would try hard, and there'll be people who would scheme. There are shayateen amongst people as well as jinns, so they would try to move these persons away from Islam. May Allah Ta'ala grant us istiqamat, and of all the people that we know, may Allah Ta'ala grant all of them istiqamat as well, and protect us from the schemes of all kinds of shayateen. Right? And also, we learn that just like so many Muslims today do not understand the Quran, many Jews and Christians of that time, they did not understand the Torah as well, and even today, right? So, um, a person who does not understand something, a book, does not actually does not create that much of fitna, does not create that much of a problem. But somebody who understands it and then knowingly twists things and disobeys things and everything, that is the kind of person who does much more harm, right? And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that they yalwuna, right, comes from lam, wow, and ya, meaning to turn something, to twist something and everything, right? So like, for example, we say in Urdu, we say multavi, right? Like my plan was this, and now I've changed the plan, and it becomes like that. So it's the same root as that. So it's like to change the reality of something, and uh, to change the Arab of something, to change the letters or something, and then to make something such that the meaning becomes totally something other than what was intended, and becomes something that like was somebody created as well. It was not the real thing, right? And then that thing does not resemble the main meaning at all. So it literally means to turn, to bend, to twist, or like to bend up, down, back, and over something so much that it literally changes the meaning, right? So, and to basically, it's kind of a lie, but then a lie that looks like it is the truth to people, right? To make it look like it is from the book or something and everything. Like, for example, in the Quran, whenever we are learning the Quran or teaching the Quran, we know this is the Quran, but anything else is a commentary. But what they would do is, one of the things that Bani Israel would do is they would recite something from the book, and even the commentaries they would read as if they were the Torah, because nobody had access to the Torah. Only the high priest would have access to the original Torah. So they would recite other things, so that what they were saying, what the rabbis would saying, would sound like it was the divine revelation, and people would just follow that as well. So sometimes they would hide things about certain sins because they were engaged in those sins themselves. So let's say somebody who's a religious scholar who's engaged in a sin himself, if he starts talking about it, then people would say, okay, wait, excuse me, you're saying to not to do this, but you yourself are doing this, right? Then, so obviously they can't say that. So they would hide it altogether, or they would change something that, this is valid because of this, or if this is the condition, then this is okay, or that and that. So they will make all these changes. And um, and uh, and also, like, we know that it was one of the habit of some ulama of Yahud, that the ayat in which the Prophet ﷺ was talked about, um, then they they used to recite them such that the meaning would change, or they would hide them altogether and everything, right? So they would change the meanings and everything, right? And also, the distortion would change the meaning totally. One of the things that they change also, like the names of the places. So, for example, Marwa, like Safa and Marwa was changed to Moria, like, or Moia or Moiho, and so forth. So this was to prove that the real place of sacrifice was not Marwa, but a similar sounding place near Jerusalem. And the word Bakka in the Psalms, like, they changed and distorted it in order to hide its relationship with Bakka or Makkah, right? Because, like, oh, it was not Makkah, it was Bakka. So they would change this. And in their audacity, what they'll also do is they would pass off their forgeries, like the things that they made up, they would insert them and they would pass them as part of the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the part of the revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they attributed whatever they made up things, and they attributed them to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knowingly and shamelessly. They would say, like, no, 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 Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says this in the book, God says this in the book and everything, while they knew very well that they have just written it themselves, they have put it themselves, and they would do that. So if you think about it, that for example, I go to let's say I have two daughters, and somebody comes to one of my daughters and says, you know what, your mom, she says, or let's say one of the daughters says to the other, you know what, mom said that she really loves me and she doesn't really care about you. You're not like that special anyway. And, but like she favored me with so much things and I'm so special and she loves me so much. But you know what, you are like, okay. But like me, I'm like, she's favored me and she said I can do whatever. I can take your toys, I don't have to ask you. I can take your things, I don't have to ask you from now on. And you cannot take my things, but you are meant to serve me. And you, my mom said that, this is what it is and this is what mom said. Now how angry would that make me feel? Because it's like, first you're doing injustice, but then you are doing that injustice and you're ascribing that to me, although I never said that. Right? And same goes in any situation, like people go to somebody else and say, this person said this when they hadn't said this. That is such a putting somebody like basically ascribing something to somebody is such a big deal. And here what they're doing is they're saying things and saying it is from Allah while it is not from Allah. Allah never said that. And they are saying that and they have the audacity to say that this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do they not realize the kind of sin that they are doing? And we saw that in Surah Baqarah as well, that they would change the reading style of things. Like they used to change the words, like for example, Raina, they changed Raina, and Hittatun, they changed it to Hintatun, right? And so the change in the reading style as well. So they would have change in the reading style. They would make changes in the speaking style, and so the one who would listen to them would think of something totally different. And again, why did they do this? Because of some benefit or to justify something wrong that they were doing, because they don't want to stop what they're doing. They just ascribed it to Allah. Oh no, I'm just following the command of Allah. Allah said this. It's not me. I'm like so good, and I'm like so obedient. But Allah said this. Astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. So they put their whatever they wrote themselves, and they exaggerated things, and they would put things on the kalam of, as attribute them to the kalam of Allah, although that was not true. Unfortunately, this was done to the Torah yesterday, but the Prophet ﷺ told us to the effect that you guys would follow them, the people before you, footstep by footstep, until if they go in a lizard's hole, you will go in a lizard's hole as well. And astaghfirullah, we see that today. Some Muslims do that to the Quran as well, right? So there are kind of mistakes that we do. So for example, let's say I'm learning how to read the Quran and somebody else is learning how to read the Quran. You're learning how to read and you make mistakes in your tajweed, you make mistakes and while reading, obviously you'll make mistakes because that's how we learn. That's the process of learning, that we make mistakes and then we learn from those mistakes. But let's say somebody is making mistakes because they're learning and they're striving and everything, and mistakes are happening, but they keep striving, and because of the lack of knowledge or lack of practice or lack of exposure from before, they're making these mistakes, but they're trying to improve them. And every day they're taking a baby step or something, or once in a while they're taking whatever steps they can depending on their time and their situation. They're trying to progress, and they're not intentionally making mistakes. As opposed to that, another person is making a mistake knowingly for their own benefit. They know what something is, they know perfectly well, they can pronounce really well, they are really good at tajweed, they know what it is meant to be, and then they're making this mistake. Then it becomes a khayanat. Then it becomes like it was a trust onto you, and you are betraying your trust, right? Then that you're and those are totally different things. Although both are mistakes, but both are very different mistakes. And unfortunately, people do that to the Quran as well. Like for example, one of the distortion among a group of Muslims is that there is a verse in the Quran which says, "Qul innama ana basharum mithlukum," meaning the Prophet ﷺ saying "Qul" is being said to say "innama." Innama is kalmai hasar, meaning that the matter is nothing except this. So it's like an exclusiveness to this. Here the Prophet ﷺ is being told to say "Qul innama ana," that I'm nothing except basharum mithlukum, like I'm a human being just like you, right? And then people distort this and say this very small mistake, but a very small change, but it changes the meaning altogether. They say kul inna ma ana basharum mithlukum, right? Instead of innama, They separated it and make it inna and ma. Inna and ma means inna means definitely and ma means not, right? While innama means nothing except this, right? So when somebody reads kul inna ma ana basharum mithlukum, meaning it means sure say I'm surely not a human being like you, right? So people then use this to raise the status of the Prophet Sallallahu to the divine and astaghfirullah, and attribute things that he did not attribute to himself as well. And also today we see people making changes in the meaning of the Quran, and they would do and there are a lot of people today that they say that we believe in the Quran, but we don't believe in the Hadith, right? Why do such people say that they don't believe in the Hadith? Because once you remove the Hadith, Hadith is the dictionary to understand the Quran. Right? When you remove the hadith out of the picture, then you can use the same ayat to interpret it in very weird ways as well, in ways that it was not intended to do. You could change the meaning literally and everything. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us in the Quran that through this Quran, Allah ta'ala guides people and misguides people. Again, not for the point is not for us to be afraid when we are trying to get to the Quran. The point for us to have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the sense that, Ya Allah, I want to please you, to come with a good intention and to look for resources and to have full belief that Allah will guide me to the right resources and protect me from misinformation, and to believe in the Quran and the Sunnah, and then take it forward, and then we don't fall into this trap. And also when we have our intentions pure, then we are not saying or doing things for our benefits. So when we know, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us something, then we follow that thing, and then we share it with people, yes, but we share it to the best of our knowledge. Something we don't know, we don't ascribe to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say, look, this is what Allah said. No, we say, okay, this is what if somebody, let's say, asks us a question, and we've studied this, but we are this is an opinion, and there could be contrary opinions, and we say the opinion, which is also the opinion of other scholars or this and that, and then we say, and Allah knows best, like, because like it's like I'm not ascribing this to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is an opinion, and we are ascribing, we don't ascribe to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala what he did not say. May Allah ta'ala protect us from taking the covenants to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or the oaths that we make to people lightly. May Allah ta'ala make us of those people who are Sadiq and Ameen. We belong to the ummah of the person who was known as Sadiq and Ameen even before he became a prophet. Even before he was granted prophethood by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he was the truthful. He was the one who kept the trusts of people. People, even his enemies, trusted him with his things, with their things, to give it to him for safekeeping. May Allah ta'ala make us of those people that are truthful in our dealings with people. May Allah Ta'ala protect us from any punishments, like let alone all these 5 punishments. We cannot handle even a single of these punishments. Ya Allah, we are weak, and we seek your pleasure. Our life is meant to seek your pleasure, and may Allah Ta'ala protect us from deviations. May Allah Ta'ala accept our coming together. May Allah Ta'ala make this a means of increasing our iman, increasing our commitment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala united us as sisters in Islam in this world, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reunite us once again on the day of judgment as the sisters in Islam for his sake, under the shade of his throne, when there will be no shade except his, and then once again in Jannatul Firdaus. Ameen ya Rahman Rahimin. Subhanaka Allahumma ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.